Part 2, things you need to know before buying a house. It's the importance of the lender in the process. We're gonna start right now. Hello, how are you? Good people. I am Ananti Yoris, a realtor with eXp Realty in the city of Chicago, serving the neighborhoods. I produce a YouTube series called Living in Chicago, and I would hope that you would consider subscribing and clicking that little notification bell. Actually, to see part 1 of this series, what to know before buying a house, click right here. So let's talk about today's subject. Lenders. Lenders are critical in the buying process, and some people very accurately would say they are the number one thing you should go. However, I have people coming to me on YouTube and other social media in various stages in the process. So I'm going to make the assumption here you could be 4, 5, 6 months from purchasing, even a year. If you're 30 days, of course, before we even start the home search, which was part 1 of this series, you need to get a hold of a lender. I have 3 names in the description of lenders that I've worked with many times and I trust. Feel free to reach out to any of them. You're not obligated to use any of my preferred trusted lenders. You may use one that you have. However, just make sure that lender understands Illinois law and how it works to also buy specifically in Chicago. So, the lender has 2 elements, the loan estimate and the closing disclosure. And for purposes of this video, I'm going to briefly talk about the loan estimate. Again, you can contact those lenders for more in-depth. But in essence, you've done the search, you maybe gone to some open houses, and now you are ready to kind of move forward. We've isolated the property, and you want to get to the application process. Once that property is isolated, the lender will produce something that's called the pre-approval letter. Now, with the pre-approval, just want to make sure there's various levels within the pre-approval depending on how much information you've provided. If you don't have all of your financial information all together to provide to the lender, then there may be some caveats within that pre-approval which will specifically state that no formal underwriting or actually financial documentation has been gathered, but however, based upon the applicant's credit score, the lender feels that the applicant is qualified up to the purchase price. So it's mandatory. You have to have that pre-approval when I'm submitting an offer on your behalf, okay? So basically, once we move forward, and let's say for hypothetically we get the property, that will trigger the application process with the lender. And once you start filling out the application, you'll be providing all the financial documentation, and that of course triggers that a 3-day waiting period. And within 3 days, that loan estimate needs to be provided. And what's in the loan estimate? A lot of the lender costs associated with financing the loan. What I'm going to discuss is some of the buyer-related closing costs that you should be aware of, okay? I have 6 of them. Number 1, transfer costs. $1,000 of purchase price, you must pay $7.50 worth of transfer taxes. This is buyer-specific transfer taxes. So for example, a $200,000 property, you are 200 times $750, roughly $1,500 you would have to pay in transfer taxes. That's transfer taxes. You have a closing fee, typically is $1,000, but you'll need to refer to your lender on the closing fee. There's lender title insurance, which is different than owner's title, which protects the lender up to the loan amount. They have a risk when they are fronting the money, and you are of course paying them with interest, but there is an additional fee known as the lender title insurance. That can vary on property, but I've seen anywhere from $1,000 to $1,500, $1,600. So make sure you bake in for that. You will have inspection. Very, very critical. You need to have an inspection. on the property that you have isolated. That could be $350 to $400. An attorney in Illinois, we are an attorney state, and while it's not required, very, very much strongly recommend that you have an attorney that is representing your legal interests. I'm handling the real estate transactional interests, and your lender, we work in concert together. We'll handle your legal interests. So an attorney will typically be anywhere from $450 to $700. I have attorney partners that can help you, and I can give you more specifics on that. And then finally, the appraisal charged by the lender to appraise the property, that is usually around $350 to $400. Okay, so those are some of the major buyer costs related. And again, the lender, as you contact those lenders, they'll be able to give you a little bit more in-depth on the lender related costs. Okay, so that's going to kind of conclude the second part in the 3-part series. Next, we're going to talk about, once we go under contract, what are the elements initially once we go under contract here in Chicago, which is called the attorney inspection review, and I'll go a little bit more into that. I hope you enjoyed this informative video. Before you go, you're going to have a lot of questions. There's a lot being thrown at you. Why don't you contact me? I have a couple questions that you'll need to answer. Reach out, and as soon as possible, I'll reach back out to you, answer the questions, and we can hopefully get started on the buying process. And even if you're not ready to buy, I'm more than willing to help you. This is Anant Dioris. I'm with eXp Realty here in the city, serving the city and the neighborhoods. I look forward to seeing you on my next video.